Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Well, as the title of this video implies, today we're going to take a look at circuit breakers, those mysterious devices that you can get to add to your DCC system on your model railroad. And I'm going to go over what they are, how they work, and why you would want to use them. So let's get started with the video. Hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Before we get started taking a look at circuit breakers, I do want to mention that hyperfocus signals are available once again. Every time he gets a batch in and gets them uploaded onto eBay, you guys keep buying him out of stock. So he has to order another batch. So if you miss them, come back in another week or so and take a look at his eBay site and look for hyperfocus, and that's focus with a K. Now, also, let me point out that he has set up a channel on YouTube called Hyperfocus Signals. So you can go to there and you can take a look at some of his videos that he has created that show you how the signals work, how you can create your own additional modules to do special functions, things of that nature. So take a look at that. Also, he asked me to ask you guys to do one thing. In the comments, would you please tell him what kind of new features you would like to see added to the signal boards in the future? So that should give you something to think about once you go to his YouTube channel, and that's Hyperfocus Signals, and take a look at what he has there, and then come back and add to the comments here, or you could put them there, I guess, but it's easier if you put them all under this video for him to get to them, and tell him what you would like to see added as far as new features in future releases of the signal board. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at circuit breakers. Now, one of the things I'm going to do today, as I said, is tell you about circuit breakers, what they are, how they work, and why you'd want to use them. But in the past, I did another video on circuit breakers, and I will put a link to that up here above me somewhere, and I'll also put a link on the end page at the end of this video. So if you want to find out more about other types of circuit breakers, some of them are old and outdated, but I've got them out there. So you can go back and watch that video and get an update on those as well. But what I'm going to be focusing on today are the newer types of circuit breakers that have a lot of special features, special functions, things like that. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of them out there on the market. So I'm very limited as what I can cover. There might be other things that I've missed or that I don't have in my possession. But for now, I think what I have to cover will help you guys out in understanding what they are, how they work, and why you'd want to use them. Okay, so the first part, what is a circuit breaker? Well, circuit breakers that you use with your DCC system are similar in some ways, or many ways, to the circuit breakers in your house. So if you get up in the morning and you turn on your coffee pot and you turn on your toaster oven and you turn on some other appliance and all of a sudden, poof, everything stops running, then you have to go to the panel box in your house and you have to flip the circuit breaker for the kitchen to turn the power back on again after you've turned off some of those appliances. Well, it's very much the same with these circuit breakers. You put them on your layout between the booster or the command station booster combination and the wiring that goes out to the layout. And anytime you get an amperage overload, if you're operating too many locomotives with lit passenger cars, things like that, and you're using more amperage than your booster can deliver, or that the system is set for, then it will shut power off. Same thing if you get a short circuit on the layout. If somebody on your layout is running a train and they run the locomotive through a closed switch and it derails and creates a short circuit, then the circuit breaker will kill power to the track. Now, it doesn't do that instantly. These things happen on the order of milliseconds, and as you probably know, electrons travel almost at the speed of light. So they are moving very quick, whereas relatively speaking, these guys are slow. So there basically then is a difference in time between how fast the electrons are moving on your layout and how fast these guys can actually turn power off. So there are things that can happen between the time a short circuit occurs and these guys are able to act. And I'll talk about that at the end of the video if there's enough time to do that. Otherwise, we'll talk about it in a future video. So the first function of the circuit breaker is to kill power to the track and prevent the boosters and your command station from shutting down. And that really is one of the main reasons for why you would want to use circuit breakers. Because you probably know that there are circuit breakers built into your DCC system and to the boosters that you buy to go with it. And they will kill power. However, they will kill power to the whole layout. So if you've got 4 or 5 people operating trains on your model railroad and one person goes through a switch thrown against them and derails and causes a short circuit, then if you don't have circuit breakers on there, then the one in your DCC system booster will shut down and kill power to your track, to your model railroad. So every train on your layout will shut down. However, if you have several circuit breakers installed on your model layout and you have broken it up into blocks so that each block is isolated from each other, then if a short occurs in one area and power is cut off to those tracks, then the power will still be on in other areas because the short does not get through the circuit breaker and get back to your booster and your command station. So it allows you to continue operations on most of your layout when some kind of short like that occurs. So that's a general idea of why you would want to use these. Now, I have done articles in Model Railroader and also a chapter in my book, Wiring Your Model Railroad, on how to set up blocks and use circuit breakers. And basically it comes down to, you might want to have 4 separate blocks, 3 or 4 separate blocks set up on your layout. You might have a yard that has a lot of turnouts in it, and people tend to forget and they try to go through a closed turnout and they create a short and it shuts down power. But if you have a circuit breaker installed on your layout between your DCC system booster and the yard or set of tracks where you've got a short, then that will shut down and prevent your system, your booster and your DCC system from shutting down so that the guys in the other parts of your layout can continue operating. So typically what I would do in a layout is I would first create a block for any yard areas that have a lot of switches. If you've got an industrial switching area with a bunch of switches located there, then that would be another block. Then I would have another block for each reverse loop. So you might have 4. On the old Piedmont Southern, I had arrangements for 8 different blocks because it was a big layout. And that's basically what it comes down to. The bigger the layout, the more blocks you're probably going to need because you might have 2 yards, you might have a staging yard, you might have a couple of industrial switching areas in towns that are going to have shorts. And so those are the kind of places you would want to isolate electronically from one another and power them each with their own set of wires run through a circuit breaker. So that's the basic idea of how you go about setting up blocks with circuit breakers. Now let's talk a little bit about what some of these things do. And I've got 3 different levels of circuit breakers here. And generally speaking, the circuit breakers in your DCC system and booster, they're there to do one thing: kill power to the track when a short circuit occurs or when an overload occurs. And so they might turn power back onto the track, and then if the short circuit is still there, they will shut down again. And they will keep doing that over and over and over again until your DCC booster burns up. So that's one thing that these guys can prevent. They can prevent damage to your booster due to those continuous overloads. This right here is a fairly old version of the NCE EB1. They have a new version of it that came out in 2020. But the main difference is right here is a set of jumpers that allows you to control the amperage that the booster will allow to flow through to the track. So you can set it for On the newer one, 1.5 amps, 2 amps, and so on. And these jumpers here allow you to do that on the older version. On the newer version, they have a dip switch here, and by moving the little dip switch settings, you can control the amperage also. Now this one had an amperage, I believe, a minimum of about 2. The new one can go down to 1.5. So it's compatible with systems like the Power Cab and some of the other ones that don't have a lot of power output for the truck. Now the way this one works, you can also control the amount of time that it takes for the circuit to shut down when a short occurs. So, and that can vary anywhere from, I believe, about 1/60th of a second up to half a second. So, got a pretty good range there, and that way it allows you to match it to different DCC systems. Mini boosters, you can set them for about half a second. Digitrax has traditionally had their set up so that the default was 1/8 of a second, but you could extend it out to half a second. So with this, you could find a setting that would be compatible with the DCC system, because you always want your circuit breakers to trip faster than your command station and its boosters. Okay, so these are fairly inexpensive, relatively speaking. There's several settings that you can change. You can set it up, as I said, so that you can control the amount of time it takes between a short occurring and the booster shutting down, and the circuit shutting down. You can set it for how long it takes before it tries to reestablish power, or you could even turn that off and set it for a push-button control or manual control so that the power stays off until you push a button and turn power back on again. And that way you don't have this continual situation with the circuitry trying to reestablish power and these constant on-off cycles going to your decoders. Because those kind of things, over time, because of this constant surges, because it's tripping and shutting off and then coming on again, that kind of thing, if it goes on too long, can actually result in reprogramming your decoders. And you will find sometimes that something might stop working, and you might have to reprogram the decoder or do a factory reset to get it working again. So that's the kind of thing that can do that. These are very easy to set up. You have a power in and a power out side here, and then you have additional screw terminals here, one for the push button to manually control the reset, and another one for an LED so that you can put a LED on your panel and see when the circuit has tripped or not. Okay, so that's a very nice little one. Also, one of the things they added here, a TVS diode, and that's a transient voltage surge diode, so it intercepts and kills these power surges on the truck. And that's something you'll see on the newer types of these systems. Okay, so there's that one. Now, let's look at this one here. Now, this here is the DCC Concepts IPCB, their Intelligent DCC Circuit Breaker. Now, you can get these in the UK and in other areas from any of the DCC Concepts dealers. So you could get these from DCC Concepts in the UK. You could get them from Rails of Sheffield, anybody over there that carries DCC Concepts products. Here in the US, you're probably looking at Iron Planet Hobbies. So there are sources for these. And these are intelligent because these are very fast. These things act on the order of several milliseconds, but they don't immediately kill power to the track. That's where the intelligent part comes in here. They sit there and they watch and they wait to find out whether or not the short that they're seeing on the track is an actual short, or if it's something caused by you putting a sound decoder equipped locomotive on the track and having a sudden rush of current into that decoder in order to charge the capacitors. And that kind of thing can look like a short circuit to these circuit breakers. So you don't want it to be tripping every time you do something like that, or when you get these transient power surges on the track. So it looks at this for a while, and then it decides whether or not it's seeing a real surge or some kind of transient surge. And then it kills power if it's a real short circuit. And again, you can control the current here. It goes from 1.25 amps up to 5 amps. So quite a nice range there. It's got screw terminals here. You can, again, connect an external LED here, and you can add an external reset switch. So similar in many respects to the NCE EB1. There's a push button here for a reset, and also a set and run for programming the unit. So a lot of things that you can do with this, but the most important thing is the intelligent feature that actually evaluates whether what it's seeing is a real short or it's just a transient surge that it can ignore and continue providing power safely to your model railroad. Okay, now this board here is the PSXX from DCC Specialties, and you can order these through Tony's Train Exchange and other places that carry their products. Now, the neat thing about this, you can get these as single boards, you can get them as double boards like this one, or you can get them in 3. And they have a scribe line here on the back, so you can literally take these, put them on a rod or something, and pop them, and you can break them up into individual boards. I find it easier just to wire them up this way and use them, but you might run into situations where you want to have individual boards. You can buy these as individuals or in groups of 2 or 3. So now, what do these do? These have a lot of intelligent functions built into them, and these are designed to be a lot more intelligent than even the PSX was. And when a short circuit occurs with these, again, like the intelligent circuit breaker from DCC Concepts, these will take a look at the short, and they will sit there and they will evaluate what is really going on and whether a short circuit has really occurred and whether power needs to be cut off, or if it's just a large surge of current demand from having multiple locomotives or lights or anything like that that might suddenly increase the power consumption by a section of your layout. And then they will decide whether to turn off or not. And they also have a special function built in that allows them to be compatible with the on-off way that Railcom works. So that Railcom that I was talking about in my review of the ESU DCC system, they were able to build in a special function that allows them to be compatible with Railcom so that it will not shut down. Also, these guys, when you set the current to a value of, say, 3 amps for that block that they are protecting, then anytime a power surge occurs on the layout, it will actually limit the current flowing to the track. So it has a couple of neat features there. It has that intelligent feature and the ability. Also, it has the same capability to power LEDs so that you know whether or not the track power is turned on and off. And also, it allows you to have a manual reset push button switch so that you can control whether or not power is constantly being recycled back to the track when a short occurs, or whether it stays off until you manually reset the circuit breaker. So I think that's a very important feature that everyone should consider implementing on their layout, because you don't want a bunch of transient voltage surges occurring one after the other every 2 seconds while you're fumbling and trying to clear a short on your model railroad. If you go to the websites for these various companies, and that is, you can find these on Tony's Train Exchange and the literature for that. You can get the literature for the EB1. It's NCEDCC.com website. This is Tony'sTrains.com website. And this is DCCConcepts.com website. So you can go to each one of these websites. You can download copies, a PDF copy of the manual for these, see how they work, how they operate, and how you could use them on your model railroad. Well, that's a wrap for today's video on circuit breakers. Hopefully, I got the message across as to what circuit breakers are, how they work, and also why you would want to use them on your model railroad. Now, one thing I want to mention to you, though, over the next few weeks or months even, I'm going to be dropping back to about, every 2 weeks or so. And it's mainly because there's a lot going on this fall, and I'm just not going to have time to be able to do a video every week. So you can look for them to pop up, They will still be on Fridays, so that at least that will be consistent, but I can't guarantee it will be every Friday. I can't even say it's going to be every couple of weeks. It's been 3 weeks since the last one I did, because we just had so many things going on here around the house that I just haven't had time. I'll look forward to seeing you here again for another video in a couple of weeks or so. In the meantime, take care, have a great weekend, have a great week, and we'll see you again with another video from the DCC Guy. Bye now.